Most people wish they were more self-aware. But what if self-awareness isn't actually the answer? The thing that separates emotionally intelligent people from everyone else. The thing that makes you better. But here's what nobody tells you. There's a point where self-awareness stops being a superpower and starts becoming a trap, a prison you built for yourself, out of pure insight. If you've ever thought yourself out of doing something you really wanted, if you've understood your own mind so well that you stopped trusting your own gut, this video is about to hit close to home. There's a version of self-awareness most people never talk about. Not the kind where you finally understand why you self-sabotage, or why you keep picking the wrong people. That kind is useful. That kind is healing. I'm talking about the kind that turns inward, obsessively. The kind where you don't just notice your thoughts, you watch yourself having them. You criticize yourself thinking. You become the audience at your own life. Psychologists call this metacognition, thinking about thinking. And in small doses, it's one of the most powerful tools the human mind has. It helps you catch patterns. It helps you regulate. It's the foundation of emotional intelligence. But there's a dark side nobody prepares you for. When metacognition becomes a default mode, when you can't stop observing yourself, it creates something researchers call self-focused attention. And this is where things start to break down. Think about the last time you were at a social event and you suddenly became hyper-aware of how you were standing, what to do with your hands, whether you were laughing at the right moments. The second that happened, you stopped being present. You became a ghost in your own experience, watching from the outside. That's the curse. The more deeply you observe yourself, the less you become. And it doesn't stop at social situations. Highly self-aware people tend to overanalyze their own motivations until the motivation disappears. You think about why you want something so deeply, interrogating it for ego, for fear, for hidden dysfunction, that by the time you're done, you don't want it anymore. You talked yourself out of your own desire. There's actually research on this. A 2019 study published in Frontiers in Psychology found that high self-reflectors were significantly more likely to experience anxiety, rumination, and lower life satisfaction than people who reflected at moderate levels. More isn't better. At some point, the lens turns on itself. The person who never reflects doesn't grow, but the person who only reflects never acts. And maybe the most painful part, highly self-aware people know exactly what's happening. They can name the pattern. They can trace it back to childhood. They can explain it in clinical terms. But knowing what the problem doesn't always make it stop. That's not a lack of insight. That's the curse. So where does this come from? Why do some people develop this hyper-observing mode, while others move through the world without watching themselves like a hawk? The roots are usually found in two places: early environments and early pain. People who grew up in unpredictable households, where a parent's mood could shift without warning, learned to watch, to read the room, to constantly scan for signals. That hypervigilance was a survival strategy. It protected them. But survival strategies don't just disappear when you move out. They become personality. The kid who had to monitor every emotional shift in their home becomes the adult who monitors themselves the same way, scanning for flaws, scanning for moments they might be too much, watching their own reactions the way a nervous employee watches their boss's face. The second root is perfectionism, born from shame. When your mistakes were treated as character flaws rather than just mistakes, you learned to beforehand catch yourself. Self-awareness became armor. If I see my flaws first, no one else can use them against me. Both of these origins have something in common. Self-awareness wasn't chosen. It was learned as protection. And protection that outlives the threat it was built for doesn't just become unnecessary. It becomes the threat itself. Here's the part that most self-improvement content completely misses. The goal was never to know yourself perfectly. We've been sold this idea that if you just understand yourself deeply enough, if you do enough therapy, read enough psychology, build enough insight, you'll finally be free. Like self-knowledge is a destination you arrive at. And once you're there, the internal noise stops. But that's not how it works. The philosopher Alan Watts described this perfectly. He called it the backwards law. The idea that the harder you try to understand or control something internal, the more you strengthen the very thing you're trying to resolve. Awareness without acceptance doesn't liberate you. It just gives you a front row seat to your own struggle. Think about it this way. The centipede never has to think about which leg to move first. It just walks. But the moment someone asks the centipede to explain its process, it trips. That's what chronic self-awareness does. It asks you to narrate the walk in real time. And narrating the walk makes you worse at walking. The deeply self-aware person doesn't need more insight. They need permission to stop analyzing. Not because the analysis is wrong, but because at some point, you've already gathered enough data. You already know the root. You already understand the wound. Continuing to examine it isn't healing, it's picking. There's also something important about identity that gets lost in relentless self-observation. When you're constantly watching yourself, you're implicitly treating yourself as a problem to be solved, a thing to be fixed. You never get to just be the thing. You're always studying it. And here's the uncomfortable truth underneath all of this. Sometimes the people who know themselves the least have more joy than the people who know themselves the most, not because ignorance is better, but because they haven't confused self-examination with self-punishment. The goal was never to understand yourself perfectly. It was always to live and be free. So, how do you break out of this? How do you use your self-awareness as a tool, rather than living inside it like a cage? The first shift is moving from self-observation to self-trust. Self-awareness tells you who you are. Self-trust lets you act as that person without needing to verify it every step of the way. Think of them as two different modes. One is research, one is application. You can't do both at the same time. And most highly self-aware people are stuck permanently in research mode. Start practicing what psychologists call behavioral commitment, picking something small and doing it before you analyze it, not impulsively, but deliberately skipping the self-interrogation stage on low-stakes decisions. Send the text, take the walk, say the thing, let yourself be wrong. You're not abandoning your self-awareness. You're learning to trust what it already taught you. The second shift is learning to distinguish between reflection and rumination. Reflection has a direction. You go in, you find something useful. You come out changed. Rumination is circling the same drain. It looks like thinking, but it produces nothing new, just the same conclusions with increasing anxiety. If you've had the same internal conversation more than 3 times, come to the same place every time. That's not insight anymore. That's habit. When you notice you're in the loop, don't try to think your way out. Do something instead. Physical action. A walk, cold water, movement literally interrupts the neural circuit. The loop can't survive action. It needs stillness to keep spinning. The third shift is the hardest, allowing yourself to be witnessed without narrating. Most hyper-self-aware people have been so deeply in observation mode that they've never let anyone else actually see them. They beforehand explain themselves, qualify their emotions, manage how they're perceived, all as a way of controlling the observation before anyone else can do it first. Let someone else hold the mirror sometimes. Not every experience needs your commentary before it can count. Here's what I want you to try this week. Pick one moment, just one, where you would normally stop to analyze how you're coming across. And don't stay in it. Let it be messy and unobserved. Notice what happens. If this hits somewhere close to home, share it with someone who will immediately know it's about them too. And if you want to understand the psychology underneath why you think and feel the way you do, subscribe to Mindforge Theory. That's what we're here for. Next video, we're going into something that might surprise you. Stay tuned.